Schmobs, please unmute yourself. This is for everybody who's waiting to talk. Please unmute yourself really before, like as soon as we bring you in. That way we can keep the show moving and get as many people to come on as possible. Breaking news on that Swiss fire, by the way. The fire did start by sparklers that were set up in these champagne bottles. That's Washington Post.
Crazy.
Schmobs, go ahead.
Just cool.
Hello. I guess my question, first of all, John, really hope you get the party. Great show as always.
Thank you.
I guess my question would chiefly be involved in, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Austrian justice cycle or the bipartisan, but I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on the recent markets. I don't know if you guys believe. And I saw that John, you did an episode on gold. I don't know. What do you guys make of the approaching $40 trillion deficit and how it's all playing out?
Schmobs, you're a little hard to hear, but John, I think he's asking about the $40 trillion, well, really 37 trillion, but who's counting deficit and how scary that is or not scary.
I'm genuinely worried about it. Worried about it for the future of my children. But my friends who subscribe to MMT, modern monetary theory, say it makes no difference. They're just numbers that don't have any impact. I'd love to believe that that's true, but I'm not a smart enough person in economics to just dismiss the idea that the national debt is just a number that doesn't mean anything. I think it does mean something. We are very, very rapidly getting to the point where the interest that we pay on the national debt is the largest expenditure in government. Okay, well, when you couple that with a bigger defense budget than the next 8 largest countries combined, it's unsustainable. Besides, it's the Russians who own not most, but a plurality of our national debt in the form of long-term government bonds. So it's like they have us by the neck. Between the debt and Chinese ownership of the debt, I think it's very, very dangerous. We have to encourage economic growth by slashing defense spending and try to pay down the debt. Our debt currently stands at a number greater than our GDP. I just saw this day before yesterday. Greater than our GDP. So I think we're in for a period of economic stagnancy. Is that right? Stagnation. What's the word? Stagnation. Thank you. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I think we're in for
stagnacity.
Yeah, of economic stagnation, like the Japanese experience through the 1980s. It took them 20 years to break out of it. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with you. How many times have we been told that, a big scary number doesn't matter, right? Like all the debt leading into the 2007, 2008 subprime mortgage meltdown. It doesn't matter that we're lending all this money to people who can't afford to pay back their loans. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that debt to asset ratios are off. Doesn't matter that, price to earnings ratios are off before the 1987 stock market crash. These numbers don't matter, and they don't matter until they do. So I agree with you. You have to pay attention. I mean, John, it made huge news and headlines when Ronald Reagan was president, when the deficit, the national debt hit $1 trillion. We're now 37 times higher than that. It took the better part of a century to hit 1, and now 4 decades later, we're at 37 times that. That's a terrifying rate of acceleration. When you mentioned like the Russians owning our debt, I did want to quote this. John Maynard Keynes famously said, right? Like if you owe the, I saw this quote recently, but it's like if you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $1 million, that's their problem. So, there is something to that too. So I hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay.
Well, we hear you. I don't know if
Gotcha.
the world can hear you.
No,
Yeah, I can hear you.
no, I just had to fix that. So basically, what my question is my understanding is that inflation, from the classical definition, is the expansion of money supply. That though, so think about a balloon. If you push air into a balloon, the balloon expands, and then what will happen is that no, that's how you have inflation or deflation. Prices don't expand; they go up or they go down. My understanding is that as the money supply goes, as it grows, it destroys the purchasing power of every dollar currently in circulation. Is that correct? And if it is, then isn't the rising prices isn't inflation? That's a symptom of a failed monetary policy.
Well, it's a radically simplified version of the truth. It is true that printing more money has an inflationary effect. That's for sure. It's also true that you could have inflation without increasing the money supply. There's a relationship, but it's not like a straightforward one that way. Now, the thing is that the way that the system is currently set up is this economy is based on consumer spending. So the system wants to motivate us to buy more goods and services all the time, right? So inflation is part of that feature. All quote unquote healthy, late 20th century, early 21st century economies basically have inflation built into it, because the idea is if I buy now, it's cheaper than buying later because prices are going up. So it encourages me to buy now. Deflation has the opposite. The reason deflation is terrifying under the current system is because if I know that something that costs $100 now is going to be $60 later, why would I buy now? The answer is I wouldn't. And if I have my money sitting, so basically people stop spending, then there's no consumerism. And then, of course, if there's no one's buying goods and services, no one's employed anymore. No one's selling anything anymore. Inventory piles up in warehouses. Then eventually the whole thing comes crashing down because there's inventory that nobody can afford to buy because nobody's employed anymore. So you go into a doom cycle. But, there's a relationship for sure, like we saw in Weimar Germany at an extreme. But it's also the nature of this system, a system that, by the way, I don't approve of, but this is the system that we have.
Gotcha.
John?
Yeah, I couldn't add anything to that.
Gotcha. Well,
I
thank
agree
y'all.
with Ted.
Thank y'all very much
Anytime.
for that. So next up is Pazois. Pazois, you are live. I apologize for butchering your name. Please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, good morning. Is that me?
That's you.
It is you.
Sure is.
Awesome. Good morning, John and Ted, and good morning, Robbie, as well.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for doing this call-in show. I love it. My question today was inspired by something that I heard the great Scott Horton say, talking about the neocons and war hawks in general. Is he was wondering, he goes, are any of these people even, do they believe in God even just a little bit, enough to sway them in the direction of thinking maybe blowing up little kids 10,000 miles away is a bad idea? And so I guess my question to you is just that is, what is the tradition of faith and religion look like in these agencies? And do people have a religious grounding?
Great question. That's a great question. Well, I've said many times that both the CIA and the FBI have unusually large numbers of Mormons. And the reason is quite simple. It is because Mormons tend to come into these positions already having very difficult languages, because Brigham Young University, where many of them went, has one of the greatest language programs in America, maybe anywhere in the world. And these people go out on their Mormon missions for a year, usually, to these very difficult countries, speaking very difficult languages, and then seek to enter government. The government doesn't have to send them to school to learn how to speak Uzbek or Tajik or Mandarin or whatever. They already have the language, number one. Number two, they don't do anything bad. They don't swear, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do drugs, they don't steal, and they just blow right through the polygraph exam. So they are just the perfect applicants, number one. Number two, I found the CIA to be, on the whole, far more religious. I found CIA employees to be far more religious than the public at large. They really believe they're doing God's work. And they really believe that God's work includes murdering civilians all around the world, because we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, and this is the way God wants it. There are affinity groups at the agency. The agency actively encourages employees to socialize and spend time only with other employees, right? You want to play sports? No problem. We've got a softball league, a flag football league, a hockey league, you name it, you can do it. There's a quilting club, there's an LGBTQ organization. Anything that you would want to do in your spare time, the CIA's got a club. And you meet in the CIA auditorium, or you meet in a CIA conference room, or whatever, and you do your thing. That includes Christian organizations. They have evangelical organizations, they have Catholic organizations, they have Mormon organizations, and you can do all of it inside the building. So yeah, it's much more religious, in my own scare quotes, than the general public is, which I never understood.
I have no obviously experience with those kinds of government agencies, having never worked in one. The only insight that I have to offer is just that, in banking and other places and in journalism, where I've witnessed people who were powerful politicians, people who are they're able to justify themselves, any kind of action, no matter how violent and brutal, psychologically, by, like John, the way you said, like, I'm a good person, and basically sometimes, as Napoleon said, to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs, and that's how people justify it to themselves. I don't think it's unusual. I think most of us could end up doing that. I could easily see myself, sitting in a revolutionary committee one day, signing off on some counter-revolutionary, fascist to be executed. My grandfather did. My grandfather supervised the execution of French collaborators at the end of World War II. I never thought he was a bad man, even though, he basically murdered these people extrajudicially. I think it's pretty easy for people to do it. It's very rare to find a human being who's able, sometimes in their life, to just sort of say, I know this is like, I think I'm a good person, but what if I'm not? Or what if, even if I'm a good person, maybe being a good person means I don't take this extra step. I don't do this. It's unusual. That's why people like John are rare, right? It was like the question, like when I wrote the book about Ed Snowden, my question was, I didn't know how to really get into I always look for a way into a book, like what's the message? What's the big question I'm seeking to answer? And I read that like hundreds of thousands of people had access to some or all of the same information that he leaked. And then my question became like, why just him? Right? Like they all knew it was illegal, or should have known. Why was he literally one in a million? And so the fact is, he was one in a million. You're one in a million. That's John. It's just the way we're wired as human beings.
No, I agree with that. All right, so next up, Alex, you are live with John and Ted. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Alex, please unmute yourself and come on, you're on the air.
Oh,
So next up,
hello. I've been thinking about a lot about the torture program, and I am thinking, how exactly all those illegal programs are authorized? It can be that president can authorize whatever he wants, same with those who follow his orders, or does president say, relax, say the director, if it goes sour, I will pardon you all. Say now
Good
go
question.
and kill, but get the results. I guess the Sicario movie gave me that image, but I don't see like a lot of presidents doing time, being on electric chair, or simply like excommunicado from all possible places. They all just
Right.
go into
Right.
hiding after their term. And you don't see like
Um,
Clinton and political rallies either.
um, yeah. Usually it comes from the bottom up. Usually it is somebody at the CIA coming up with an idea that is then pitched to the president. I'll give you an example, the one I know the best, the torture program. So the torture program, uh, the idea was hatched by two contract psychologists before they had the contract, two psychologists by the name of James Mitchell and Bruce Jessen. In October of 2001, they approached a friend of theirs who was a high-ranking official in the CIA's counterterrorism center. And he was at a dinner party, and George Tenet was there. And he went up to George and said, George, listen, I have these two friends who are psychologists, and they've reverse engineered the SEER program. They're calling it enhanced interrogation techniques. We can beat the shit out of these prisoners and torture them and make them give us information so we can disrupt the next attack. George loved the idea. So here's the way it works out bureaucratically. You have this idea, you write it up in a memo, and you send it to an office called CAS, the Covert Action Staff. CAS formats it so it's in the right format, the right heading, the right font, all that stuff. And they send it to the CIA's general counsel, the head lawyer for the CIA. He has to read it and decide if it's legal or if it's illegal. He doesn't know if it's legal or it's illegal. So he sends it to the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel, OLC. They read it. This was John Yoo and Jay Bybee. They read it and they said, we can make the law stand on its head. So we'll write a memo called the Bybee memo that will argue that it is legal, even though we have laws that specifically prohibit it. We're going to say, extenuating circumstances, we're going to say it's legal. Then it goes to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General says, well, if my people say it's legal, then it must be legal. So he signs it. Then it goes to the National Security Council's General Counsel. And he says, well, if the Attorney General says it's legal, and OLC says it's legal, and CIA General Counsel thinks it's legal, otherwise they wouldn't have sent it forward, it must be legal. So the NSC General Counsel signs off on it. Then it goes to the National Security Advisor. And Condi Rice said, well, my God, this whole parade of attorneys who are far smarter than I am, they all say it's legal. It must be legal. So she signs it. Then it goes to the president. And they make 3 copies. The president signs each one of the 3 copies. One goes into the safe in the CIA's operations center. One goes into the safe in the National Security Council. And one goes to the executive office of the president. And then it's legal. It's secret, but it's legal. That's how one of these crazy programs is implemented. It starts off as an idea at a dinner party. And then it takes November, December, January, February, March, when it's signed by the president, 5 months. And it becomes the law of the land, even if almost no Americans know about it.
Now, John, I read, is this true? I read that at one point, even Vice President Dick Cheney at some point was read into some of the specific techniques that were being used in the torture program, and that at least he verbally approved of it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, there's even more. Even more to that story. George Tenet said in his memoir that that he went to the White House with the final version of the torture covert action program, and Cheney walked into the office. George was waiting in the anteroom of the Oval Office, and Cheney walked in. He said, "George, what are you doing here?" And George said, "I've got the memo for the enhanced interrogation program for the president to sign." And Cheney said, "Oh, give it to me. I'll have the president sign it." And George said, "Well, I have to have the president sign it because it's going back to the agency to go into the vault." And Cheney insisted that he would get the president to sign it. And he physically took it from George. And George said, years later, thinking about it, he wasn't sure that the president had ever signed it. He was thinking maybe Cheney auto-penned it. And that when the president said that we do not torture, which is how I got involved, that he was actually telling the truth because he didn't know that there was a torture program. Cheney knew and kept it from him.
What do you think?
Well, with what I know about George W. Bush now, compared to what I believed I knew in 2002, I think Bush actually did not know that we were torturing prisoners.
Do you
I
think this
Cheney
was an effort? Do you think Cheney was trying to avoid Bush seeing something that he would have vetoed or disapproved of? Or do you think he was just trying to protect the president by providing him with plausible deniability in the event that things went tits up?
I think that Cheney thought if the president knew about this program, he would have gone to his father for advice. And his father would have said, "Run screaming from the room. This is wrong. It's illegal. And it's going to all fall on you." And I think Cheney didn't want that to happen.
And he just wanted the torture to happen, and he didn't, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. So it's possible that it was auto-penned. I mean, look, that would be possible to ascertain if we ever saw, if there was ever, we ever got a copy of that signature.
Yeah, I think so. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it.
Y'all ready?
Interesting. Wow.
Y'all ready for your next call?
Yeah. Just a quick reminder, please click on the Discord link if you would like to talk to John and myself. And that Discord link is in the Rumble chat and in the YouTube chat. Thanks everyone for playing, and we're doing this for another 29 minutes here. Then we're back to our regularly scheduled program next week. So not to say we won't ever do this again, because we do like doing it, but we're just taking advantage of the fact that the TMI show is off the air for this week. Anyway, go ahead, Robbie. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you are good. So next up is Venkatesh. Venkatesh, you are live with John and Ted. You are live.
Go ahead, Venkatesh.
Yeah, I have three small questions, this being the last day of the fall episode. John, you've been on multiple podcasts. Which one was your favorite? And have you guys heard of the documentarian Errol Morris, who made a documentary on Robert McNamara, who was former Secretary of Defense? That document was prolific, it was brilliant. And I thought with him and you, it could be a perfect pair, and you could easily take your word to millions of people. And lastly, I have a personal touch, but I was watching 4K footage of 4K drone footage of Shenzhen and Shanghai this morning, and for some reason I started to cry. me being an Indian, I thought, will India as a country will ever get to that stage or something like? So, do you ever see India as a global player as China is today? Thank Thank you. Speak, Mr.
Wow.
Thank you.
Good questions, man. So I'll start with my favorite podcast. It's got to be Tucker Carlson. Tucker's just such a genuinely sweet guy that you almost forget you're on a podcast that millions of people are going to watch. It really does feel that it's just you and a friend sitting across the table from one another, having a nice conversation. It just doesn't feel like a podcast. There are no nerves. You know, he's just a very sweet guy. So that's my favorite. I've been on big ones. Another guy who is just really genuinely sweet like that is a guy named Tegan Broadwater. I've been on his podcast 2 or 3 times, and he's just a genuinely good guy. To the point where I've stayed in touch with him, and I consider him to be a friend. Like I said yesterday on this other issue, I genuinely worry about China. I don't believe that the Chinese are all over the world engaged in the construction of, bridges and highways and hospitals and airports out of the goodness of their hearts. I think that they are a lot smarter than we are when it comes to these issues. And I think that they recognize the value of soft power far better than the United States does. So I'm worried about what China's going to look like in the next 20 years. What other issue am I missing, Ted?
Oh, can India become rival China as a global
Absolutely,
superpower?
yes. Absolutely, yes. For a number of reasons. Number one, because China is a more easily functioning government because it's democracy. I think that the Indians have a long way to go, but I think that the Chinese system is such that in the end, the bureaucracy is going to hold it back.
It's funny that
India needs to.
I would argue with you about that. I mean, I agree with you
Okay.
about the government. I think China's political system holds it back, no question.
Yeah.
It doesn't unleash the full power and creativity of the Chinese
That's
economy
it.
and the people
Yeah.
and their ingenuity and all that. I think the Indians are held back by something we've talked about, which is the gross inequality and mass scale
Yes.
poverty.
Yes. I agree 100%.
Their human potential is locked up. So many fucking hundreds of millions of Indians who are basically so worried about like whether they can eat today. They're not coming. These are all startups that are not happening, businesses that are not getting started, degrees that are not being earned, ideas that are not being conceived. They're held back by that. Their human potential, and that's hurting their GDP. It's going to drag them down, and they're not going to have the money that they need to expand globally.
Agreed. Yeah. You said
So it's
it
kind of a
much
race.
better than I said it. Yeah, there's going to have to be a lot of change in the way that that India runs its society, that the Indian government runs Indian society. Like we said, this caste system is just so fucked up that it's got to change like right now. I dated an Indian woman for a while after my second divorce, and she asked me if I had ever been to India, and I said, yeah, I have been 3 times. She said, oh, did you love it? And I said, actually, no, I didn't love it. And it's unusual for me to go to a place and not find something to really love, right? I love travel. I love going all around the world. Even in the worst shitholes in the world, I find something that I really enjoy. I didn't like India. She said, really? Why? And I said, I had never been to a country where people were so mean to one another. Not mean to me. Everybody was perfectly nice to me. Mean to one another. And it's this caste system. I agree with you, Ted. That's what's going to hold the Indian economy back. Plus,
Yeah,
they
I mean,
have to.
I think it's easier to pivot.
deregulate.
I think it's easier to pivot a political system than an economic system.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese
agreed.
the Chinese could just have democracy, next year if they wanted.
Yeah,
But India can't just turn on to, a more equitable distribution of wealth.
that is right.
I have a question for both of y'all because y'all both have traveled a lot. Which country's economic system is it easier for someone just to legitimately pull themselves up from nothing and build a future for yourself? The United States or China?
Ooh.
It's a tough one.
I would have said until very recently the United States, until maybe 20 years ago. Now I think it might be China. It's more of a meritocracy. If you're gifted, if you're talented in something, the government and its educational system has a massive interest in elevating you. I mean, I saw I, Tanya, right, about Tanya Harding, the figure skater. And I was
Yeah.
struck by the fact that, like, she was poor and she couldn't
Yeah.
afford, like, to make her outfits. She had to make her own outfits. She couldn't, like, buy the proper ones. And there was this whole caste system in figure skating, right? That would not happen in a country like Russia or China. I mean, her talent would have been
chance.
picked up immediately, and she would have been sent to a state school where her talent, and she wouldn't have had to worry for anything except just practice. That's more like, I think, if you have an innate talent that is of a kind that can be recognized by the state and by business, someone in China is going to fucking lift you up where you belong. I don't think that's necessarily true here. You could be brilliant as shit and stuck working in a 7-Eleven the rest of your life.
Absolutely true. I agree.
All right.
That's sad.
Well, thank y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Ray now. Ray, you are live with John and Ted. Please unmute and we await your question, sir. Ray,
Please unmute.
Ray, you're alive.
Ray, please unmute yourself. There you are.
Hey,
Here you
good morning, guys. How you doing,
Morning.
Mr. Rawl?
Good,
Anyway,
Ray, how are you?
John, oh,
You muted.
Oh, you
Am I
muted
You
again.
muted again.
There you go.
Go ahead, Ray.
okay. I unmuted myself. I'm muted again.
No, you're good.
No, you're
How do
good.
we,
You're good.
Okay, I understand what I did, Ted. I mess up all the time with the mute and the tab there. Anyway, my question, last night I was watching Tori Maris, and John, she is the woman that worked for John Brennan at Global Strategies, and I brought up about you getting a pardon. And what she said, she would like to reach out and speak to you because you guys work in the same fields, But she was saying it would be strategically smart if you were pardoned for a number of reasons. But, she actually wanted, she gave an open invitation if you wanted to speak to her, And I sent Robbie like a clip of it.
I would love it. Robbie, can you
She's
Can
also
you,
a Greek American, John. She's from Corinth, her family hails. Yes, she is Greek.
oh,
And she would love to speak to you. She also said about other men, but basically there was something else someone brought up in the chat there, and it was saying maybe some of the strategical strikes against Venezuela or basically expatriation, cleaning up messes around the world for the agency. I've never heard of that before, but could you elaborate on that? And also, like she's also on Twitter as a chaos coordinator. If you needed to get a hold of her,
I'm
she's
gonna look.
yeah, she doesn't exist if you know what I mean. Them
Yeah.
private contractors, yeah.
Right.
But I
Oh,
was basically asking about the expatriation. What that means, basically. Something about also it would usher in AI infrastructure down there and across the world.
Huh.
Expiation is, I think, the word.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Ted.
expiation. That's a hard operation to pull off. It's absolutely possible, but that would be tough to pull off. But I could see that happening where, the CIA goes around the world blowing shit up to cover up things that they've done or that they intend to do. There are a lot of moving parts with an operation like that, and so they're very difficult to pull off, like I said. And I'm pausing as I'm saying this because I'm trying to think back on whether I can recall any such operations, and I can't, to tell you the truth. Not while I was there, anyway.
I just wanted to know what it was about. And hey, Mr. Raw, I'm going to see the Subhumans in April, man. Some good old punk there.
Excellent. Enjoy. I'm jealous.
All right.
Hey,
Hey,
can I
go
ask
ahead.
you too? Can I ask you if you can give Robbie whatever contact information you might have for her, and I'll
I did that
I'll reach out
already. I
Oh,
did
you
that
did?
for Robbie. So
Yeah, I will
yeah,
get
and
to
I
you.
also
Thank you.
the clip last night. I gave a time frame. Unfortunately, I couldn't. YouTube doesn't allow you the clip anymore. So I gave Robbie the time frame where she discussed about you. If he wants to send that to you, so. But she would love to speak to you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, she wants your perspective
I
on
would be
things
delighted.
too. Yeah, and it's not going to
Thank
be
you very
the
much.
same old. Hey, John, tell your story 15 million times, man.
Thank God. Yeah, thank God. No, I don't want to do that anymore. Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Hey,
Excellent.
guys, have a happy New Year, man. Good to see you,
Thank
Ted.
you.
Good to
Happy
see
New
you,
Year.
John.
Thank you
Have
for
a
your
good one,
support,
Robbie.
too.
Hope
Appreciate
you
that.
feel better, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
All right, just 1 second. I think we just had a crash, boys and girls.
Really?
Yep. I think OBS
What?
just shit the bed in a spectacular manner. I think people can still hear
Are we
us.
off the air?
No, we're still on the air. It's just I can't see anything anymore. So, but that's fine. We can muddle this on through. Just 1 second, and I will bring
We're
over.
prettier when you don't see us.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let me see here. Y'all, so I'm going to have to alt tab out. Y'all may see some stuff here on the screen. It's nothing bad. It's just not going to look very good while I try to fix this. So let me see
Great.
here. Let me see.
You know, we always talk about I always talk about the Jeffrey Toobin thing. I wonder about, like, have there been any major screen share mishaps in business where
Oh,
people
yeah.
share their screen and then there's open tabs for, whatever.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. No, it does happen. No,
Oh, listen.
now my computer's completely locked up. So let me see.
I worked for a guy who projected his screen up on a big pull down screen,
Yeah.
and he had a tab that was called "Sexy Russian Bitches" that was open.
Well, if you've got to have a tab, I mean, that's the one I would go with personally. No, my wife is black, so I probably have sexy black bitches, but still just the same.
Right. Same idea.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So let me see. Nope. So we are. I am completely locked up. So Ted, you've got to do some producer work now. So if you could bring
Okay, tell
down,
me.
so if you could bring down Yellow Banana into the Discord chat, and I assume people can still hear
Okay.
us.
All right. All
I
right.
cannot
Yellow
promise
Banana,
it.
here you come. All right. I think I can do this. Let's see. We're gonna find out. I'm not able to drag Yellow
No.
Banana.
Okay. So no, we are.
I am not draggable.
You're not
Yeah.
draggable. Such
Let's
is
see.
life. Okay, so hold on. I'm trying to rebuild this. All right, hold on. I think we're back. I think we're alive. Rebuilding. Y'all,
We're live.
y'all, this is live TV. I mean, it is what it is. So you just have to deal with it. All right, Yellow Banana, you are live with John and Ted. I think you're live. We can hear
Morning,
you at
guys.
least.
Yep.
All right.
There he is.
Good to be on again. Quick question for y'all, and one for John too. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Andrew Yang and UBI, and then for John, just wanted to hear more about that Texas speaking tour you have.
Yeah. Great. Real quick, let me talk about Texas. So I had a commitment from a very wealthy friend of mine to put up $250,000 to get my speaking tour back on track. He told me on October the 12th he was going to transfer the money. I'm still waiting. It's long beyond October the 12th. And every time I text him or call him, he has some excuse. So I went out looking for other investors. I found one over the weekend who sent me $100,000, which is very helpful. But I need another 100,000 to get this thing planned. So the initial plan, and I have a meeting about this at 2:00 this afternoon. We're going to start the speaking tour at the end of February in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's going to likely be hosted by the World Affairs Council of Santa Fe. Then we're going to Branson, Missouri, then Charleston, South Carolina, and then in the first couple of weeks of March, it's going to be Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. So I'm going to cover like a blanket with emails all of this as soon as it's really pinned down. I need to find another 100 grand. I'm working on it this coming week. But as soon as we get that second 100 grand and I can rent the facilities, we're going to get moving. So thanks for asking. It's going to happen.
Awesome.
I'm optimistic. I don't have a speakers bureau behind me this time, so I have to do it all myself, which is a huge challenge, but at the end of the day, frees me up to do all kinds of things that I otherwise couldn't do when I was in the UK and Ireland.
So
Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang.
Yeah, I never
universal
liked Andrew
basic
Yang.
income. Go ahead.
I like that idea, but I don't like Andrew Yang. I don't trust him.
I don't either. Why don't you?
I feel like he's a neoliberal in progressive clothing.
Yeah, he is. He's a weasel. He tries to basically, yeah, that's the best way to put it. I don't trust him either, and his politics are soft and squishy. Also, his version of UBI, it would just sort of be a subsidy. It wouldn't really be enough for anybody to even subsist.
Right.
But the thing is, look, as a lefty, I think a UBI is just basically like it's a Band-Aid to a capitalist system. But that said, okay, this is the system we have until we have a revolution. So look, from the capitalists' own point of view, they need this as much as we do. We have lower worker participation rate year after year after year because technology keeps improving productivity. AI is just the latest example, but automation, so on. So basically, they don't need as many of us working as many hours as we used to. That's not bad news. That's good news. But what they've got to do is, like, now that the money's still pouring into the system, and what we got to do is take some of that money to pay people to sit at home. And that's, I know, very against the Protestant work ethic. It seems very anti-American, but take heart in the following. Some of those people will be bored and will start their own businesses and start the businesses of the future and come up with crazy new ideas. And the others, instead of coming out and killing people or causing revolution or burning things down or causing crimes, they will sit at home on their computers and watch TV, and they'll be out of the way. That's the purpose of a UBI, and is to basically pay people to not end up like India. Right, we will end up like fucking India if we don't have a UBI. So that's my.
It's like a farm subsidy. It's like a farm subsidy where you get paid not to grow, wheat or corn because it's going to flood the market. It's going to force the price down, and then everybody's going to be unhappy. The same idea. I told you I had this friend at the CIA.
Farmers.
Yeah, exactly. You still want to have farmers. I used to have this friend at the CIA who he had some money. So he bought 100,000 acres in North Dakota, 100,000 acres. And he just bought it to hunt on it. He wanted his own private hunting ground. He said as soon as he settled on the property, he gets a letter from the Department of Agriculture saying that they'll pay him to not grow wheat. He said he never had any intention of growing anything, let alone wheat. He's not a farmer. He's a full-time CIA officer. He just would go up there to hunt. And so he took the subsidy not to grow the wheat. He said that the subsidy paid the mortgage on the property every year. And after 30 years, he owned it free and clear, never paid 1 red cent out of his own pocket.
Now, would you consider that to be a fucked up system, or?
Yeah, it's one of those quirks in the system that we've given ourselves. But how do you correct for something like that?
You can't.
You would have to
really.
rely on the honesty of people to say, hey, listen, I wasn't going to grow wheat anyway, so I won't take your millions and millions of dollars in subsidies.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I could tell
I guess
you.
if we weren't wasting so much money on defense and in Israel and Ukraine, I guess I would be more upset about it.
Well,
you know.
I could tell you how you get the right wingers to sign up on it, like me, because the people like me, we're suspicious of new government programs, specifically if the government gives you money to try to buy you off. What's to prevent them from then using that to put a chain around your neck? The way that you get around it is that you would sell it as a way where you actually get dividends like a shareholder does in a corporation. So if the government is turning a, well, not a profit, they don't make money, at least not legally. But
they could back in the day.
Well, they could, but no. For example, though, what you could do is if you have a budget surplus, then all taxpayers get a percentage as a dividend, your UBI, for that surplus. That's how you be able to shrink government spending, and then that actually gives you an incentive to make government lean and efficient, not just more bloated. What do y'all think?
Well, I mean, I definitely see the appeal of it. That it's self-explanatory. For me, the hesitation is that the main purpose of government really isn't to make a profit. The purpose of government is to provide for things collectively that people can't do individually or in small groups. And I don't see how you get there from that.
Well, the government's taxing us already. So I mean, if you're $37 trillion in debt, if you are then able to, cut your spending and you balance the books, and then the government is actually bringing more revenue than expenditure. I mean, you have a surplus. That's the definition. So then either A, you cut taxes, or B, you actually start paying dividends to taxpayers. And that's the thing. You have to be a taxpayer. If you don't pay into the system, you get nothing. That incentivizes you to, like, if you're an illegal migrant who's living who's sucking off the tit and working under the table, that then incentivizes you to become legal and get involved with the system.
Well, that would literally be treating government like a business.
Correct.
Something that politicians always talk about.
Well,
but businesses need to, like you say, cut spending and increase revenue. So there would be an incentive for the government to increase their tax collections, raise everyone's taxes a lot, and then provide fewer services than they're even providing now, which I can't think is. I mean, my problem with the U.S. government is that they're providing too many stupid services and not enough good ones. I mean, we really need more services, right? I mean, we need free college. We need healthcare.
I agree, but inflation is a tax, and that's what people don't really want to ever talk about. It literally is. It's a tax, and so it's a tax
That's a separate issue.
But
fiscal policy is different, though.
But it's related, though, because the more that things cost, the more then that especially states and stuff are able to charge with sales tax and that kind of thing. So there is a correlation. See what I mean?
Sure. There's a correlation.
And so I guess that's how you would be able to win people on my side of the aisles. That you're getting a rebate off of money that you've already spent, and then it incentivizes voters to then punish politicians like Trump, who outspend Obama, which I didn't think was possible, but yet here we are.
Oh, just you wait. We will look back. The American system is a study in entropy. We will look back at Donald Trump as a fiscally responsible, calm, methodical, responsible president. We will miss him.
He's a moron.
I promise you. Oh, I know. So was Bush.
But you're right, though, because we used to say the same stuff about Ronald Reagan. He was a nut. He was an extremist. He's going to lead to the demise of the country. And now people are like, oh, my God, do I pine for the days of Ronald Reagan?
Totally.
Oh, my God.
Tell you what I'd like
Yeah.
to see, and the reason I'm going on like this is because we don't have time for another caller. We have 2 minutes to kill, so you also have to just put up with my crappy voice. You know what I think would really just set the stage, and I want to get y'all's opinion on this, for an actual reform from the grassroots? What would happen if 120 Americans just said, fuck it, we're not going to pay our credit cards anymore? What would happen? The banking system would drop to its knees, and the usury would finally come to an end.
Not a
Yeah.
chance.
But that's not going to happen. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because
No.
I mean, think about the level. This is like when leftists. I mean, that would be a left wing thing too. But this is
100%.
like when left wingers talk about like we need a national strike. You know, like during Occupy Wall Street, or now they'll say like, oh, we need a like instead of no kings, everyone needs a national strike. The level of left wing grassroots organization required to pull off something like that is inconceivable at the present point in time. I mean, this country doesn't have we don't have the ability to get. Well, remember the Million Man March? I mean, Louis Farrakhan couldn't get 1 million guys to show up for the Million Man March. And you want 120 million people to all like agree to put up in the face of all the threats of having their homes taken away and their finances and their credit ratings ruined. You want them to hold firm? We couldn't get fucking 5 Democrats in the Senate to fucking hold firm, you know, to defend the Affordable Care Act subsidies. It's just that, I mean, it's a great idea, but you know, the level of solidarity that you need to have an organization, it's stratospheric. I mean, it's like Alpha Centauri. Like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah. But I did not come up with this idea, and it probably surprised both you and John about who did. It was Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson said that if you want to
And
bring,
he knows what I just said is true.
100%. But I mean, my whole thing is that if you keep going to the people in Washington D.C. and they're the ones who are screwing you, to ask them to please use at least a little bit of lube, they're not going to. You have to push back.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. But you know, the thing is, like, you can have revolutionary impulses, but you're not going to have a revolution without the organization. You'll just have collapse. We have revolutionary impulses. We don't have the organization.
Well, we're going to
pull off a
collapse anyway.
revolution.
I'm seriously, I think we're going to just completely collapse anyway. How can we not? It's so top heavy and bloated. My concern is what happens next. I don't want that to happen. I have kids.
No, that's my concern too.
What do you think, John?
I don't want collapse is ugly.
Am I off the reservation here?
Yeah.
Or?
No, collapse. We're headed that direction. I really believe. Yeah, we've got to do something.
too.
It's got to start with defense spending. We're killing ourselves. We're
That's right.
implementing the path to our own collapse.
100%.
Yeah, it's got to stop.
That's where most of the money is going. And I mean, there's other shit too, but that's right. Start is the right way to put it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you so much, John. Happy New Year to you and to everybody else. We will be back Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern time for a regular 1-hour show, Monday through Friday, all of next week, 9 o'clock a.m. Mark it down. And please like, follow, and share the show as much as possible. And have a great weekend.
Right. Thank y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Robbie.